Well, let me start with addressing emptiness, and that's, although that sounds as a pretty strange topic to begin with, I think it is a very important one, especially from the view of knowing all the techniques that are around to induce lucid dreams, knowing exactly what steps consist of the mild technique and the wild technique, and I don't know because of what other techniques there exist today to induce lucid dreams. But from the view of that knowledge, of that baggage in that sense, I would really like to start with letting go of all that knowledge and consequently all the confidence that you put into those techniques instead of putting that into yourself. Because the danger of collecting and gathering all these techniques and tips and tricks is that you begin to label all those, well, all that baggage with well, this might work or this should work, and you put the effectivity and the success into the technique instead of the technique being a means for you as a tool to induce lucidity. So in order to bring your lucid dream state up to the next level, it is very important that you do this from an inward source instead of collecting sources external of yourself in order to bring it up to the next level. And well, that's not easy. From my own experience, I think it took me about 4 times to realize what was happening, this mechanism of keep searching for new techniques, and in many cases just people just invented new names and labeling new techniques. I thought, oh, this is a new technique. I well, printed it out and outlined everything, and well, of course it didn't work. And well, it took me, well, as I said, 4 years or so, I think, to realize that and say, oh, well, what's happening here? Why? How was I able to have my first lucid dream in about a week, just before I heard what lucid dreaming was, without knowing anything about techniques? I didn't know about mild, I didn't know about wild, I didn't know about dream recall even. I just had this passion for lucidity, and I thought, well, when I was a child I had a lucid dream, so I must be able to have another lucid dream now with this conscious intention. And that's really struck me, and I went to my bookshelf and I got my own dream journal that I used back then, which only describes 7 dreams because I recorded 7 dreams in that week, and the last dream was a lucid dream, my first lucid dream, and intentional lucid dream, by the way. And I opened the book, the dream journal, and I take a look at it now. Again, this question of how was I able to succeed in just a so short amount of time, while I'm now 4 years ahead. I know every technique that is around, all research article I've read, and it almost feels like I'm struggling more than when I did back then, when I just discovered lucid dreaming. So I started experimenting and saying, hey, this is something interesting, and maybe there's something to learn about this. Well, and the discovery, of course, was seeing or discovering, realizing that I put all the confidence and success into the technique instead into myself. So I thought, okay, I need to practice, and I need to regain or recover, rediscover that confidence and belief in myself. So how do I do that? So in that time I knew some things about philosophy and meditation and enlightenment and all that kind of stuff. It's really interests me. And I thought, well, I'm not a big fan of meditation, but maybe I can use it to be more focused upon my own inner strengths instead of putting that into something external. And so I started with a very, very simple definition of meditation, and that would be concentrating on something. Be concentrated as long as possible on something. That was my definition of meditation. And actually, the definition, you can really find the definition in a lot of other places of people that are promoting meditation for means for relaxation or for self-empowerment or concentrating on something. And well, of course I put meditation in the context of lucidity, and that's what we're going to talk about right now, is how to use meditation for lucid dreaming, and on a more subtle way, rediscovering that confidence into yourself instead of relying on some kind of technique. And although those techniques are still effective, of course, they are only effective if you use the techniques, and it almost feels like the techniques are using you if you are putting all your faith in them instead of the techniques putting faith in you and say, okay, well, use me as a technique. So that's very important. So, well, meditation, I started, and well, the first thing that I did was sitting like this. I just sat on the ground. Meditation, look, meditation, it's effort. Okay. So I was sitting here, and I closed my eyes. Somehow, all people that meditate close their eyes. Okay. It's easy to concentrate, they say. But it's interesting how concentration seems to play a vital role in meditation. So I started and concentrated, and well, within a few seconds I already realized how difficult it was to only concentrate on one single thing. A thought or a sound distracted me. Sometimes it would even take a half a minute for me to realize that I was wandering off in some other kind of fantasy before I returned to the thing that I was focusing on. Some kind of imaginary object or something like that. And of course there was some kind of understream, kind of a realization like, well, why is this so difficult? And again, reflecting, well, retrospectively on my first lucid dream experience in that week, which I didn't feel any kind of difficulty in attaining that lucid dream. It was so easy, so natural, so flowing, like, well, of course I can have a lucid dream. I don't need any techniques. I didn't know them back then, but still. So any effort that I felt didn't feel natural in relation to that memory of my first lucid dream. So concentrating on something, this is very difficult, concentrating. And of course, with my knowledge of wild, wake-initiated lucid dreams, I thought, well, and also my experience of lucid dreaming, is actually there's not a lot of concentration in lucid dreaming. There's a lot of consciousness and awareness in lucid dreaming, which is a very different thing. If you concentrate on something, by definition, you're prone to be distracted. Well, in consciousness, you can still be distracted, but you can be still conscious of the distraction itself. Do you feel what I'm getting? It's a way of observing instead of focusing. And when I started meditating, and this is exactly what I want to teach you, is meditating with a smile in that sense, and not that fierceness of only focusing on one single thought and, well, like this, well, it's really an effort, I'm going to do it, I'm going to succeed, meditation, here I go. And in that sense, just sitting down, closing your eyes, and just observing or being aware of yourself, of any thought that arises, any feeling that comes up, and not suppressing it to some kind of a form in which you must concentrate on something, but just letting yourself be in that sense. And that is exactly what is needed when you are performing the wild technique, because in that sense, the trick of wild of that technique is to really let your body fall asleep instead of you. You are being awake, your brain is awake, or your consciousness is awake, to be more specific, while your body falls asleep. And in that sense, that's why it's called a wake-initiated lucid dream. You enter a lucid dream while sustaining wakefulness the whole time. You haven't been asleep, you haven't lost consciousness or lost lucidity in that sense. And when you fall asleep for the first time, when I had my first wild lucid dream, I was so struck by the fact that all these different thoughts and emotions and sounds come along, and I was really witnessing my brain generating REM sleep while I was entering this dream. And gradually I felt my own body again, and I felt that I was present in some kind of environment, and well, it really struck me, wow, amazing how randomly this, how random and chaotic almost this dream world is generated. So in order for me to be conscious of that, it is an mission impossible to be concentrating on something, because the dream is so unstable, the dream generating process is so unstable that you inevitably you will be distracted.